Hello, truth seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, the whole reason to align with the spiritual work is to be free, isn't it? To be free from the fear, to be free from the conflict, to be free from the struggle. Now, the question is, are you free? What's the scenario like? When you ask yourself, where am I? Then you know, isn't it? You cannot lie to yourself. Because the awareness in you knows whether you are free or not, whether you're progressing in the right direction or not. It's good to pause, reflect what's happening. It's good to pause to reorient ourselves towards the right direction. It is easy to get distracted in the spiritual path with experience that we go through in the spiritual journey, especially from meditation. So, not to get distracted, it's important to step back from the spiritual path and see the practice with the bird eye view. So if you're stuck in the spiritual practice, so what's really happening? By the way, the stuckness in the spiritual practice means the mind still exists. The whole spiritual journey is about dissolving the mind. And if you're not able to dissolve the mind, then what's really happening in the spiritual path? Not dissolving the mind in the momentary aspect, dissolving the mind in the absolute sense. So if you're not able to dissolve the mind, to disengage from the mind completely in the spiritual path, then what's really happening? The spiritual journey, the enlightenment journey, the real spiritual journey is about disidentifying yourself with the mind, to see the absolute truth in oneself. If the truth is missing, then what's really happening? By the way, people see that, assume that when people align with quiet practice or meditation practice, people think that they are disengaging from the mind. But that is a momentary disengaging from the mind. But it's not even disengaging from the mind. You are just simplifying the mind from the quiet practice or meditation practice. Because in the meditation practice or quiet practice, you're still bringing some focus to quiet down or to be aware of yourself with some focus. And that focus is a mental focus. The layer you're carrying and then focusing on yourself in the body or in the mind to move away from the chaotic mind. So the mind is not completely dissolved. And when you're controlling the body and mind in the meditation practice, in the quiet practice, the intense controlling creates the hyperventilation in the body. And from that, that approach, then you go through the mystical experience. And when you go through the mystical experience, then those experience distracts you further away from the truth. Those experience makes you get stuck in your meditation. Once you go through the mystical experience, you tend to repeat those mystical experience. And that's the reality right now, isn't it? For a lot of you, if you have gone through the mystical experience, you are trying to remember your experience and then try to create that experience again in your meditation. So basically your meditation is happening from the past, latching into the past, and then trying to create that experience in the moment. So that indicates that you have already been distracted in your meditation. You have lost the reference of the true spiritual path, which is about dissolving the mind, dissolving the experience. Why? Because the truth is not an experience. Truth is not a mind. Mind and experience both gotta go. And the reason to fail in the spiritual practice is because we are latching onto our experience and upgraded meaning, especially getting stuck with the experience. The mystical experience are, above our mundane experience. It's not usual like our physical experience. It's different. And for the ego, it is extraordinary. And the whole journey, the spiritual journey, is about dissolving the ego. Dissolving the ego means dissolving the mind. When the ego starts to experience the mystical experience, the ego assumes and give meaning to that experience. And the reason to give meaning to that experience is because ego is about that. Ego thrives on the upgraded experience. Upgraded experience means upgraded meanings. And the ego self latch into that experience. By the way, the ego self is you. When you are missing the truth means when you have not seen the truth of who you are an ego self. When you identify yourself with the mind, when you're moving with the mind, when you're latching with the mind, that's a sign of ego. So the ego is there from the beginning. Since we start to recognize the experience, and from the experience we have these ideas, to till now, our life has been experience and ideas. We have been going through the experience, collecting ideas, and who we are is the experience and ideas. And we latch into that experience and ideas, and we are that. And that is the ego self now. We have become the ego self. When the truth is missing, we are ego. So the whole journey is about dissolving the ego. And when you start being part of the spiritual practice, basically the ego is doing the spiritual practice. So Before spiritual practice, we have so much ego. Ego makes us seek, non-stop seeking. There's a struggle. Then we become part of the spiritual practice, and in the spiritual practice, we are seeking. The ego keeps seeking in the spiritual practice new, upgraded stuff, ignoring that the spiritual practice is about dissolving, not accumulating. And when we are seeking and keep adding and ignoring the subtractive journey, then the ego is doing the spiritual work. Ego is continuously seeking refined meanings, refined experience. And when you are stuck in your meditation, stuck with the mystical experience, that indicates that your ego is doing the meditation. The ego is doing the spiritual practice. Again, the real spiritual journey is not about accumulating the mystical experiences and refined knowledge, because they are not true. You are not the mystical experience. You are not the refined belief. You are the background that allows everything to appear and disappear. And the whole journey is about reclaiming the plain sight truth, the unchanging truth in you, and that is consciousness. And how to get there is the dissolution of ego, taking out the layers in you, all identification in you. All identification is the ego identification. You have to peel each layer out of you with self-examination, with self-inquiry. You have to investigate your layer that you're attached to with the self-inquiry. By tracing the mind, self-inquiry or self-examination means you're tracing your ingrained identification or ingrained belief or ingrained experience backward to figure out what is the source of my identification. So you're tracing back to figure out the reason to cling into whatever you're clinging. All clinging is the mind, comes from the ego self. So you have to trace back. You have to do the self-examination of yourself on what you hold on to. So you gotta, trace your mind backward. That's the journey. Tracing the mind backward is the path to annihilate the ego. It's the process to make your ego die. So again, the whole process is about disengaging with the mind, dissolving the mind. So again, comes down to simple question. What's happening in your practice? Are you dissolving the mind or are you expanding the mind? If you're expanding the mind, ego is so stubborn in you, so strong in you, that ego is making you go everywhere. So the whole reason to be part of the spiritual practice is to overcome the struggle, overcome the fear. And now you're already being part of the spiritual practice. And now your spiritual journey is it's happening from the place of ego. But that's the process, the ego starts the game. Ego suffers. then ego itself seeks for freedom. And then ego is being part of the spiritual journey. And eventually, the ego must die. But the chunk that is missing to create the death of the ego is the self-inquiry path, the self-examination. And that self-examination is the examination of yourself, that you are, that self-examination of you, in a sense that looking into your identification with the mind. And that's the journey. So if you're stuck already creates a numbness in you as well. If you're not able to step back from your spiritual practice, especially when you are not able to free yourself, you have numbed yourself in the path. So to get out of that fog, that stubbornness already in you, to get out of that, you really have to step back and question yourself. Yeah, question yourself and trace your mind backward. That will lead you, that will reignite the real fire in you to set yourself free. Okay, I hope this video makes sense to you. Hearing all this is just an idea. Idea is not freedom again. The idea, hearing this, make your mind go bigger. And some of you align with what I say, but when you like what I say, it's still expanding the mind. Until you do the work of dismantling the mind part, still your ego is loving the reference of the real path, but the reference is not freedom again. So you initiating in the process of dismantling and seeing the root cause of the suffering and eliminating the root altogether only leads you to see the real you. So do the work, my friend. Okay, I hope this video makes sense, and thank you for watching. Yeah, take care for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.